Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
You are once again welcome to PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics in Ghana and beyond. Today we bring you another fiery reaction from KSM, diving and breaking down the powerful speech of JM, calling it a revolutionary speech, and so many things he said about it, which I would like you to join me listening to what he said into detail. He also referred to some leaders as Uncle Tom, and I don't know who that person is. Without much ado, I would like you to join me listening to what he said into detail. Thank you.
I talk, and I'm concentrating today on President Mahama's speech at the UN. Obia Kennedy, I've listened to everybody. Now it's my turn. I have to say some. But before I do that, I want to give a very, very special big up to the names. One is Gloria, and the adoring husband of hers is called Confidence Buzia, and together they call themselves the nation building couple. You know, I was chilling at the hotel, and then the receptionist came and says, he said, there's a couple here that wants to see you. So they came and we had a long chat, and everything they were talking about was about nation building, man. And the man said, we actually told the receptionist to tell you that he should tell you that the nation building couple wants to see you, but the reception didn't say that. She came and said, they are a couple. Either way, they are a couple. But Confidence Buzia and Gloria, thank you very much for showing up. And thank you for all the encouragement. And yes, we will continue to build this nation, man, no matter what. It's not an optional. Somebody asked me a very, very important question at my age, you know, who is going to take over? And I said, there are people there who are lined up. And trust me, you know, what we say is this, that a generation that is responsible who plant the tree, not because they want to enjoy the shade from the tree. It's very, very likely by the time the tree grows and it has the leaves that is providing the shades, they will not be there. But guess what? They are happy to know that their children and grandchildren will grow to enjoy the shade of the tree. That's what the whole game is about, man. So for me, we are sowing seeds in people, and that tree will germinate and grow, and you will see the shade. Anyway, today I wanted to give my small comments on JM's masterful performance at the United Nations. And I'm saying masterful performance because, do you know something? Those of us who had the privilege to study communication at the tertiary level and higher levels, we understand a certain thing or two about communication. So for me, when you're talking, I'm listening more. Everybody, I pay attention to how everybody communicates. And let me tell you something, man. Our president's communication at the UN, I'll call it a mastery. You know? Because in communication, there are two things that you think about: form and content. Let me start first with the content. The content is what goes into the communication. What relevant information are you presenting? What is the body and the thought in the subject matter that you are presenting? That is the content. And the form is the way you present it. Smart test here. So in terms of both form and content, that's why I said the delivery was a mastery. Very well written, the thought was amazing. Okay. But this is what I want to say. Everybody is talking about, oh, Mahama, the UN. I want to go beyond that. I want to go beyond that because what impressed me about his whole UN speech was when he talked about the future being Africa. And he had a very good way of presenting it. Or Kayakra, let me repeat it. Watch what he said.
Madam President, as fate would have it, the tables are turning, and Africa's role in the authorship of whatever is yet to come for this world is going to be huge, and it will be consequential. According to this organization's own projections, by the year 2050, more than 25% of the world's population is expected to come from the African continent. Additionally, by 2050, 1/3 of all young people aged between 15 to 24 will be residing on the African continent. So you see, the future of this world is African. Allow me to say this once again a little louder for those of you in the back. The future is African.
Thank you, Mr. President. The future is African. My little editorial note is that means there's a lot resting on the leaders of Africa. There's a lot resting on the leaders and the leadership of Africa to grow Africa, to make sure that Africa is actually the future, which means it's going to be the center of excellence for learning and thinking and production. So there's a lot to do. That's why I say, Charlie, you can speak all the foreign language, but if you don't get on the ground and do it. So knowing what he has said, believing that the future is Africa, I'm trusting and hoping that all of Africa who say they have taken inspiration from what they heard will actually start building a country that is productive, a country that will take care of its people. The future is African. For some reason, you know, certain things and a certain approach was so confident and so beautiful. It was reminding me of Kwame Nkrumah. I'm sorry. We can't get away from that. It was reminding me of Kwame Nkrumah, especially when he was bold enough on the UN platform under a now Trump administration to remind them that please lift the blockade you have on Cuba.
I'd like to call for the removal of the blockade on Cuba. As Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our nation's founder, famously said, we seek to be friends with all and enemies to none. The Cuban people shed their blood on African soil in the fight against apartheid. And indeed, Cuba has been and continues to be a faithful friend of Africa.
I thought that was phenomenal because it has become a no-go area, even for American presidents. Even a black revolutionary president like Obama, who people expected that if anybody can do it, will be done under Obama. That never happened. So for under the presidency of Donald Trump, for Mr. Dramani, Your Excellency, to go there and actually remind America that actually this blockade you have over Cuba is not working. I thought it was a bold move, and my respect for him doubled for that bold move. Also, what he said that I was really impressed was the situation in the Palestinian problem. There again, too, everybody is mute. And I don't think it's a secret that the Jewish have the strongest lobby in the US. Not in the US alone, but everywhere. The Jewish lobby is so strong and so powerful that it dictates all the barbarism that is going on in Palestine. It's unfair. So for me, for Mahama to be on that platform and use that platform to call for justice for Palestine, I think was extremely awesome. And I think one of the things that he said that caught so much attention, if it walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it is a duck. No matter how you put it, where there is a duck, it walks like a duck, it swims like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it won't be a goat. It is a duck.
Madam President, these are dangerous times. Our world is currently experiencing a rise in nationalism and economic instability. There's a general breakdown of multilateralism, Various acts of aggression have been committed against the sovereignty of others, and nations are attempting to circumvent the very safeguards that were put in place to prevent large-scale global conflict. These conditions are all too similar to the ones that led to the League of Nations' failure in fulfilling its mandate. The denial of visas to President Abbas and the Palestinian delegation sets a bad precedent and should be deeply worrying to all member nations of the United Nations. Ghana recognized the state of Palestine in 1988 and supported a two-state solution to the conflict since then. And I say, contrary to the claims of some, a two-state solution would not be a reward for Hamas. It would rather be a reprieve for the hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children and people who are facing collective punishment and forced starvation for no reason other than the fact that they are Palestinian. For nearly 2 years and for the fear of reprisals, we here in this General Assembly have been playing hide and seek with language to find the right words to help us avoid or excuse what we all know is taking place in Gaza. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter what you call it. If it looks like a duck, it swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, well, then it must be a duck. The crimes in Gaza must stop. The crimes in Gaza must stop.
So all these injustices that are taking place, you know, everything that is not making this work equitable, there's one word. If it's injustice, it smells like injustice, it feels like injustice, guess what? It is injustice. So that's another angle that I was happy that he brought it up on that platform. Now, what I find very, very interesting, number one, was the way he sounded. And I think I've done a show on this before, that all African leaders, if you're going to be a leader in Africa, the Western world is watching. They want to make sure that you toe the line. It is so important for them to make sure that you toe the line. When I say toe the line, what do I mean? It means you follow the standard practice. You know, show them their respect. If you have to go for aid, go and beg them for aid. Let them feel that they are the boss. Africa, there you are, kids, man. You're the boss. You know. When we have to help you, we'll come and help you out of our charity. That's what the world wants, especially the Western world. Basically, that's what all they want. They want Africans to feel that, Charlie, we are subservient and humble, and we owe our existence to you. That's the kind of leadership they want in Africa. And if they don't get that, they find you a very worrying person. And if you remember when I did the episode of Kwame Nkrumah, I told you that is why the CIA overthrew him. He was starting to sound like he wants the rise of Africa. And that they find a threat. What am I saying all of this for? Because this is what I sort of felt when Mahama was speaking, that he was asserting Africa, talking about how the whole UN needs to reset.
Africa is a catalyst for systemic change. If this reality, which is fact-based and straightforward, seems provocative or unsettling, perhaps it's because you are viewing it through the lens of centuries of filters, colonialism and imperialism, and the resulting implicit bias. Maybe you are unaware of the resilience of African nations or their remarkable ability to make a strong comeback just when you think it's safe to count them out. That is what is happening right now in my own country, Ghana. Our constitution limits leaders to 2 4-year terms. In January, I was sworn in for a second term, which, let me point out, was non-consecutive with my first term. Our currency, the Ghana cedi, was rapidly depreciating, faced with rising inflation, a huge debt burden, and low morale amongst our citizens. My new administration settled down quickly and embarked on an ambitious program of comprehensive transformation designed to restructure Ghana's economic foundation and enhance our competitive standing globally. We refer to this process of recalibration as our reset agenda. In just 8 months, we have achieved significant reduction in inflation from 23.8% in December 2024 to 11.5% in August 2025, restoring price stability for our citizens. Additionally, our currency, the Ghana cedi, has appreciated considerably against other currencies, with Bloomberg reporting it as the best performing currency in the world at one point. Our improved sovereign credit rating reflects increasing investor confidence in our economy. And our 24-hour economy initiative promises to transform our economy. And there's a renewed willingness amongst our people to trust that their elected officials have Ghana's interests at heart and that we're progressing together. Madam President, I believe that in honor of this milestone celebration, the United Nations should also embark on a process of serious recalibration and establish its own reset agenda.
Talking about how we need to make sure that Africa has a permanent seat on the Security Council.
Madam President, the UN Founding Charter is outdated when it comes to representation in this August Assembly. The most powerful post-World War II nations are still being rewarded with an almost totalitarian guardianship over the rest of the world. And yet, the first sentence in Chapter 2, Article 1 of the UN Charter declares that the organization is based on the principle of sovereign equality of all its members. If this were true, and was the case, a continent as large as Africa, with its numerous UN member states, would have at least one permanent seat on the Security Council. Furthermore, we believe that veto power should not be restricted to only 5 nations, nor should it be absolute. There must be a mechanism in this House for the General Assembly to challenge a veto. No single nation should be able to exercise an absolute veto to serve its own interests in a dispute. In 1995, during the 50th anniversary of the United Nations, Nelson Mandela stood in this very spot. And he said, the United Nations has to reassess its role, redefine its profile, and reshape its structures. It should truly reflect the diversity of our universe and ensure equity among the nations in the exercise of power within the system of international relations in general, and the Security Council in particular. I close quotations. 30 years later, we African leaders are still making the same simple request for a permanent seat on the Security Council with the power of a veto. So today, Madam President, I stand here in this exact spot and ask the world, if not now, then when?
These things have been banded up and down, you know, but to have the president of the platform sounding it, watch it. Next year by the United Nations General Assembly, meet again. There will be more African presidents sounding the same word of caution that we need a permanent seat on the Security Council. All I'm saying is this: any African who starts showing that kind of dynamism, and that kind of dynamism that is centered in the growth of Africa, is a threat. So immediately they're looking for ways and means to make sure they minimize that threat. So as I was watching him, I was saying, I hope that we Ghanaians will rise up and back up and reset our intelligence so that we make the world understand that, yes, our leader has our support. Very, very important. And don't take anything for granted, that kind of speech and that kind of stand for Africa can cost you. It can. You know, they may come and be flowery and pretend like all is good and everything, but underneath all of that is a plan to show you where power lies. You know, that is why the leadership, listen to this for a second, the leadership, the black leadership, both the leadership in Africa and the black leadership in the US, there are some similarities. Because all of us as Africans have gone through one thing. We went through colonialism, which messed up our minds big time. Colonialism messed up our minds big time. Remember what Kwame Ture said, and I say that occasionally here. He says the effects of colonialism on Africans is that colonialism has not only made us stupid, it has made us ignorant in our stupidity. When the first time hearing it, I was quite annoyed. But this is what we call truth to power. Colonialism have not just the effects on us as Africans. It didn't only make us stupid, but it made us ignorant in our stupidity. And that's the reason why colonialism created two breeds of African leaders. We have the yes sir boss, yes sir massa African leader. Yes sir boss, yes sir massa. We had those leaders in Ghana during the struggle for independence, when Nkrumah was thinking about building Ghana, making the country grow. There were other parts of the leadership that were thinking about sabotaging Nkrumah and going behind Nkrumah to the British to say, oh yes, sir, massa, oh don't mind Nkrumah. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We like you. That's the leadership we have. Those that were looking to overturn the system and those that were looking to collaborate with the system to keep Africa down. That's the kind of leadership we had in our struggle for independence. The same thing was happening in the US. Our brothers and sisters who have gone there as slaves, and they were being tortured and maimed and faces all kinds of injustice. That too brought two different kinds of leadership. They too had leaders, black leaders, who are willing to play ball with the oppressors, and those who wanted to separate and prove that we have to build our own, you know. So in the US, the leaders who wanted to play ball with the white folks were called the Uncle Toms. The Uncle Toms. And Malcolm X referred to them as the house Negroes. Those were the Uncle Toms. They were the ones willing to play ball with the oppressors. Uncle Toms. And the other side of the Uncle Toms were those who wanted to see something substantial for the black people, you know. And Malcolm X called those people the field Negroes. I'm just trying to compare what was happening in the States. So they had two kinds. We have the field Negroes and then the house niggers in the US. And in Africa, we had the same. You know, I'm sorry, but you remember the same UN Council that our former president went to complain about Burkina Faso? He was acting like a typical house nigger. Listen to him.
Madam President, as I speak today, ongoing developments in West Africa are deeply troubling. Military coups in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger threaten the democratic progress we have worked so hard to achieve within the ECOWAS community.
You see what I'm talking about, folks? So you have one leader who was like, oh yes, Massa, please, these people from Burkina Faso, they want to do this. Massa, please come. And one is also on the same platform warning them and saying we need justice and the future of this world is Africa. It's a clear thing there. You see a field nigger and a house nigger. I don't want to use the word nigger. I just want to use the word, let's say, a dynamic African leader and an Uncle Tom African leader. And to date, we have Uncle Toms in all of Africa, and we have the dynamic ones. We have the Nkrumahs and Uncle Toms, all of Africa. And I guess I was just pleasantly happy to see that our president pretended a front of a dynamic leader who wants the good for Africa.
Since July 2024, it is estimated that there's been a 40% drop in humanitarian aid globally. In this era of global uncertainty, Africa must exercise sovereignty over its natural resources to raise the necessary funds to ensure the well-being of its citizens. The days of parceling out vast concession areas to foreign interests for exploitation must come to an end. We'll continue to welcome foreign investment, but we must negotiate better for a bigger share of the natural resources that belong to us. And we must insist on value addition to these resources. We're tired of the continued image of poverty-stricken, disease-ridden rural communities living at the periphery of huge foreign-controlled natural resource concession areas. We're tired of having people extract the most they can from us and in return offer us the very least by way of respect, consideration, and dignity. We're tired of not being represented in ways that reveal the richness and complexity of our history or acknowledge all that we have overcome to arrive here in this liminal space of untold possibilities.
And that is what I found impressing about his speech, you know. He spoke like a proud African who wants the best for Africa. And I'm saying, watch it. And I'm telling Mahama to, you watch it. Because they don't like that kind of presence. They'll use any other way to get to you. I've heard that now they say it's okay. Even the US the visa matter is okay. We'll get to that, but not on this show. We'll get to that. Did they say that because they liked what Mahama said, or they are doing things to make sure, look, calm down, calm down, calm down. We don't want to offend you. We will get to that, not today. But today I just wanted to concentrate on one fact, that the delivery, both form and content, was mastery. If you know communications, the key things, two key things, all of you who are studying communication or want to be good communicators, the two key things when you're communicating, one is, number one, to capture the attention of the people you are talking to. Capture the attention. And you just don't only capture the attention, you sustain the attention. So in communications, when you're speaking, make sure that number one, your speech will capture the attention of the people you're talking to. And number two, it will sustain the attention. And it's easy to capture the attention. When you start off, it is like very beautiful, you can capture the attention right away. But most communicators lose the attention after they've captured it, because they start rambling and then they go, of course. So those of us who have studied communication know that you have to capture and sustain. And in terms of that oral interpretation and presentation, I think GM did very, very well. He captured our attention and he sustained it throughout. You know, I like the fact that he would throw in casual things, you know, talk about the world that he wants to create for his 18-year-old daughter, you know.
Allow me to echo the Indian-American writer Arundhati Roy, who wrote, "Another world is not only possible, she's on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her briefing." I want to add that for the sake of Africa, and quite selfishly for the sake of my 18-year-old daughter, I hope that this new world that is arriving is a place of safety and equality for women and girls. To succeed, we must empower everyone, including women and girls, to reach their full potential.
And he talked about this black woman who has origins in Ghana, who is now like the first woman mayor or something. I'm not sure, but something to that effect.
Madam President, we cannot normalize cruelty. We cannot normalize hatred. We cannot normalize xenophobia and racism. If we're going to tell a story, let's not tell its slant. Let's tell all the truth. When we speak of migrants, we speak of Mami Ewusi Mensah Frimpong, a judge on the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California. She's the first black female judge on any of California's 4 federal district courts. She was born here in America to immigrant parents from Ghana. We speak of Peter Bosman, a medical doctor in Ghana who moved to the town of Piran in Slovenia in the 1980s and later became the first black mayor of Piran, the first black mayor in Slovenia and in the whole of Eastern Europe. We speak of T. Michael, the iconic Ghanaian Norwegian artist and designer. And of course, we speak of the late Kofi Annan, former United Nations Secretary General. former United Nations Secretary General and Nobel Peace Prize recipient, who was born in Ghana but spent his adulthood in various places in America and Europe. These are people who have brought great distinction to the countries that they decided to call home. Just as the migrants and the children of migrants before them did, I dare say these are not invaders. These are not criminals.
He mentioned Nana, his vice, who is the first woman vice president in Africa. He mentioned her.
I'd also like to congratulate Her Excellency Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman on being the first woman vice president of Ghana. Now every Ghanaian girl knows the heights to which she can ascend. Words matter, but issues of representation matter even more, which is why Ghana looks forward to the appointment of a woman as Secretary General of this organization in the near future.
So, folks, all I want to say today is that, yeah, everybody has been sort of like happy with the speech and things like that, but I just want to move a step further to advise the president. Now that you have said all these things which they don't like, even if they give you a standing ovation, they don't really like it. But now that you've said all these things and you have set that tone, make sure, Mr. President, that your resetting in Ghana is real. Because they'll do everything that they can to possibly derail you. And you know who will support them? The Uncle Toms in Ghana. They will even start the crusade for them to come and support so that they derail you. Mr. President, you've gone and you've spoken, and I believe that it was a mastery in communication. Your form and content was great. My advice, don't let it just be a speech. We are sitting here in Ghana and we are waiting. There are all these other avenues that are there that is looking up to you to make that strong and bold approach to, like you did in the UN. But the UN, there's a beautiful platform. Ghana, there is another platform. Ghana is a reality now. So I beg, make sure you deliver, because they don't like what they have seen. And they'll be more than happy to make sure that you fail and derail your agenda that you're starting in Ghana. And the sad part is that they have Uncle Toms who are waiting to help them to derail your agenda. On that note, folks, I've had issues going on about our mining and how there's possible chance that Your Excellency, you want to give some mining project to your brother Ibrahim to take over mining and all lots of stuff. But I will be talking to the lawyer for Mr. Ibrahim Mahama's company, Engineers and Planners. Stay tuned tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll be talking to Mr. Bobby Banson, a young, brilliant, dynamic attorney, and we will be finding out some of the facts about many of the things that we need clarification on. In the meantime, Mr. President, watch out. One could be one more, and they will hold you responsible. And the way they want to hold you responsible is to make sure that they derail you. And what happens when they derail you? Oh, Master Apache, you are the boss who we go back begging. They love that. They would love to see an African any day, anytime on a bended knee begging than standing upright on both feet and speaking with confidence. So they're going to do all the things they can to get you, or if it's not you, whoever is behind you, to get our leadership to come back and say, oh, sorry, we were wrong. But that won't happen again. We would rather die on our knees than to live on our feet. Whatever happens, folks, Ghana shall rise again.
Thank you for watching PENDREAM TV. This is all we have for you here today, and we would like to hear from you in the comment section. Do like, subscribe, and also share the link for others to watch as well. Thank you.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.